If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
Of off the court situations, I think it's important to address the biggest story in the NBA outside the New York Knicks, which is what's going on with Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. So the team announced that he would be away from the team for at least 2 games. I know Shams positioned it as a suspension. I haven't seen the team say that, but he is away from the team. He wasn't in the game. The Clippers, they played the Clippers on Sunday. He was not there. He's not going to be at the Laker game as well this week. He posted an Instagram live video of himself brandishing a gun while partying at a club following the Grizzlies' loss to the Denver Nuggets on Friday. Morant issued an apology to the team and to the city of Memphis, saying that he will be taking this time to learn better ways to handle stress and his overall well-being. Morant has been the headline for multiple wrong reasons this season. He had there was a Washington Post article that was dropped last week where they highlighted allegations that he beat up a 17-year-old kid at his house and then later showed up with a gun. There was the incident that happened with the Indiana Pacers during a game earlier this season in which the Pacers traveling party believed that Morant or someone in his entourage pointed a red laser into their bus. There had been several incidents with Ja Morant on social media, a couple of years ago, the tweet, telling people that they could feel how hollows feel. There was the incident at a mall where he showed up with 20 guys looking to threaten a security guard. So not a lot of good things happening with Ja Morant right now, and he's now away from the team. How concerned should the league be with the Ja Morant situation right now?
Yeah, very concerned. He's a face of a franchise, essentially one of the promising young. We talk about teams on the rise. Grizzlies, had he not gotten hurt, do they make the finals? Maybe.
Right,
they were one of the best teams in the NBA last year. They are one of the best teams in the league this year when everyone's fully healthy. Jaren Jackson finally back and staying healthy and playing well. And not only for Morant, obviously personally, there's the Nike contract he just got involved with. We'll see how that plays itself out. From the personal perspective, I thought Jalen Rose gave a great kind of commentary on it, and I direct folks that are interested to that. I retweeted the NBA.
I did as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'll direct folks because I can't comprehend one being a young, rich, famous black man in America today with $100 million in your bank account. Everyone knows you signed a $200 million contract. And Jalen Rose talked about just kind of how the pressures, the survivor's guilt of escaping a poverty-stricken situation and the pull to wanting to be accepted by your peers and folks you grew up with, but the need to understand that there's a lot more at stake for you. I thought Michael Wilbon had some interesting comments on the situation as well. So I'd be interested in your take, but I think what Rose did was what was important from my takeaway from Rose's few minutes of talking about the situation is, yes, we can be annoyed at his knucklehead actions, but we should also approach it with some empathy, because this is a young man that seems to be dealing under the weight of some mental health issues or some stress in some ways. And to me, it'll be fascinating. And I think it's really important. I thought the statement he released was a good first step, but it's really important for him to acknowledge the wrongdoing and understand that he needs to change, because it's one thing if we all say, hey, Kyrie Irving, you shouldn't, quote Alex Jones and promulgate his messages or, anti-Semitism, etc. But if he's going to reply, be like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, you guys losers. Like, you guys aren't on my mental plane, like he clearly doesn't understand what, he deleted his apology, that being the perfect example. Hopefully Ja understands, because when you get involved with guns, and we've seen far too often in this country, the destruction that can be wrought from firearms. I hope for his sake and for the sake of the league that he realizes the changes in his life that he needs to make.
Yeah, I think that I agree. Jalen Rose, again, I do encourage anybody to go check it out. He posted on his own Twitter account. It should still be up there about he had it had to be like a 4 or 5 minute. I won't, definitely not a rant, I guess you would call it, like just a message to Ja Morant. Yeah. And a lot of it was talking about his own experience and his own life being in a similar position to Ja Morant. I think for me, the reason why I really enjoyed that Jalen Rose message to him was because I think it's different. You mentioned the Kyrie Irving thing. There's a major difference when you talk about firearms being involved, because now you're talking about, yes, what Kyrie did, there's a dangerous message that being put out there that could lead to violence. But Ja Morant dealing with guns in what it feels like now a cavalier way. There's too much evidence now to suggest that he thinks of guns and he treats gun and gun culture cavalierly. He tweets about shooting people. He's showing guns that says 70-year-old kids. His entourage is pointing lasers. He's messing around with a gun at a nightclub with a bunch of other people. Like, that could lead to direct violence. That could lead to someone directly being killed, whether it be himself or someone else. So that's why the messaging has to be, I think, a little tweaked and different. Yes, we can talk about he's making a lot of mistakes. He's going to ruin his life potentially. All that is true. But there's a chance that someone could be seriously hurt, whether it be himself or someone else, by how reckless he's treating having weapons or his attitude towards guns. So I think for me, that was, I think, the important thing to kind of get him to understand. Like, look, everybody can have their own opinions on what you think of gun ownership or whatever. I'm not really on that right now. It's just about, if that's what you're going to be about, you cannot act like that. You cannot be so brazen. You cannot be so reckless. And look, I don't doubt that he's dealing with stress and mental health. Like, to me, like, I watched that video and said, this looks like a guy who's dealing with something, because that didn't make any sense to me. Like, even think about this. Like, Ja Morant is the leader of a team that is contending for an NBA championship. I watched that Memphis Grizzlies Denver Nuggets game. I watched that game. They got washed in the fourth quarter. I mean, they got outclassed. That was a game that was close, and then they just got run out of the gym. And you're playing against the maybe presumptive MVP, and you lose that game in that fashion. And the next thing you do, like, I kept trying to think in my head, like, yo, did they land in LA and he just went to a club? And I realized, no, he had much of that in Denver. It's like, after that game and that performance, that's what he decided to do, was go to a club, go on IG Live, and shirtless, gun. Like, come on. Like, some of these things that you can kind of just see, okay, this person clearly is not in their right mind. Because some things don't add up. You can say, oh, he's stupid, whatever. It's like, no, I mean, come on. This is a guy who's trying to win an NBA championship. This is what he's doing after one of the worst losses of the season for their team. So I think
and when you mess around with guns, you don't even have to do anything malicious. Ask Plaxico Burress what happens when you slip upstairs and you have a gun in your pants, and yet how that can ruin a championship, a team that has championship aspirations.
Exactly. And these NBA teams, and I have a good pleasure of knowing some people who know NBA security. Like, these NBA teams have security that will essentially go with you wherever you want. They're not going to go to a crack house or anything crazy, obviously. But you want to go to a club, you want to wherever, they will make sure they'll have armed people with you to secure and ensure that nothing bad happens. So the idea that he feels like does not need that, and that he can just go out there with just his crew, like, to me, it was even all like, the other thing I thought about too was, like, I mean, he just found like 20, 30 people to go to him in Denver. Like, even that to me was weird. It's like, so his entourage is traveling with him now, and this is what they're doing after games? Or did he just find 20, 30 random people and say, yo, we're going to just close down the club? Like, I don't know. Either one is bad. Like, there are just a lot of things about this that were disturbing. So I wish him well. Like, he's an extremely exciting player. He's one of the more exciting players that's come in this league in the last 10, 15 years. And he's an important piece of this league. I hope that he can get himself right. I think, what's most important is his well-being and ensuring that he doesn't, endanger himself. But I think if you're the Memphis Grizzlies, I think you do have to have real conversations about 100%. Where do you go at this point? Because there's too many instances now where this is a guy you're entrusting your entire franchise. And you think about what happened with the Wizards. You think about what happened with the Atlanta Falcons, like with Michael Vick. Like, you entrust your franchise in a guy, and something catastrophic happens with them, it could wreck your franchise. 100%. So they're going to have tough conversations about what they do moving forward with Ja Morant, in my opinion.
Very tough conversations, because it's literally billions of dollars at stake for the league, and particularly the franchise, because that franchise goes as far as Ja Morant goes. Make no mistake about it. They can be a championship contender with him playing well and keeping his nose clean, and they could head the other direction if not. And since we're a Knicks pod, it's probably worth mentioning Zion Williamson, the number 1 pick in that infamous, 2019 draft, hasn't played in how long? Will he return again? Has he played a playoff game yet in his career? How many games has he missed versus how many games has he played? Ja Morant, the number 2 pick, and Knicks fans, rightfully so, are endlessly frustrated that they got the 3rd player in a 2-player draft. One of the reasons why, you have faith in RJ is because he's been an incredibly upright professional, just everything you could ask for, from a locker room guy to the way he's handled the media, to the way he's handled his teammates, to the way he's handled his on-court and off-court persona. So those are all things that go into a career. It's probably worth mentioning. It's not, you don't want to jump to a conclusion too early about how one guy's a bust or one guy's clearly not as good as the other 2 guys. Availability is an important part of this business, and RJ, you can certainly say, has been available and played the right way since arriving in New York.
Yeah, could not agree more with that. And one final thought on this is Adam Silver needs to get control of this league. It feels like right now the equilibrium of the league is just completely off. Like he's talked about players feeling deeply unhappy with being in the NBA because of all the stuff they get from social media and all the stuff. And I'm seeing Trae Young calling Atlanta radio hosts on Twitter. Like I'm seeing Kevin Durant saying people don't like watching him play; they can just stop watching him. I'm seeing Ja Morant in clubs toting guns, and it's like something's off. Something is not right. Like the NBA, and I know they're gonna barrel their way towards a CBA agreement that I don't know how much will fix things, but it just feels like right now things are not going in the right direction. And I think that this is a symptom of that. I really do. And I hope that Ja Morant gets help he needs, but I hope that the NBA gives him the support he needs as well, because this was not good.
And you know that there are, let's just say, there's a segment of folks out there that will jump on anytime the NBA goes in the wrong direction. Not just the Knicks themselves, but the NBA in general.
Yeah, exactly.
If there are missteps, they're looking to call them out for it, for reasons we don't have to get into. But
of course,
they are motivated to find things that are wrong with the league and show how this is an example of the culture wars that are incessant in society. And as far as Silver goes, might he have one eye on that Disney CEO
job
spot?
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of maybe he's just trying to stay out of the headlines. We'll see. But I agree with you. Most importantly, directly to the point about Ja Morant, for his sake, most importantly for his sake as a human being, his mental health. Let's hope that he can surround himself with the right people, and that the Grizzlies can put him in a position with which he can succeed on the floor, off the floor, and that he's a happy person and a successful basketball player.
Yeah, man. If you care about Ja Morant's career, you care about his life, reach out to him. If you got a positive word. I don't know if it's Melo, Allen Iverson, Steven Jackson. I don't want to just name drop those guys. Those are guys that have talked about what it's been like to kind of be in the crosshairs of the commissioner and the crosshairs of street life in the NBA. And they've talked eloquently about that. If those guys are Jalen Rose or just guys in the NBA now, those guys can help him out, because Ja Morant being in his right state of mind is best for him, of course, but also best for the entire basketball community. So